deutsche Volksgenossen und Genossinnen, meine deutschen Arbeiter, ich bin aus euch selbst.
Adolf Hitler is remembered as one of the most heinous leaders in history. His figure has been etched into the pages of history. However, he is also known for being very meticulous with his public image. The Führer had great control over how he was represented in the media and was extremely selective with the images he allowed to be disseminated. This is not a surprise, since he was very careful when it came to keeping the enormous propaganda apparatus created with Joseph Goebbels running. However, after his death, many of the photographs he had banned came to light, and we are going to review the most striking and controversial ones, starting with this one. The recording is from 1930 and shows the Nazi leader sleeping in a comfortable garden chair. Hitler wanted to be perceived as a tireless leader, always in command and vigilant, someone who did not waste a second in his mission to protect and guide Germany. A photo of him asleep might have suggested vulnerability, weakness, or a lack of control, which was contrary to the image of a strong, omnipresent ruler. Even though the Germans knew that the Führer needed to satisfy his biological needs like anyone else, showing him explicitly humanized his figure too much, making him seem more ordinary and less imposing. This went against the regime's work to create a cult of personality around the man, presenting him as an almost superhuman leader. Something similar happened with the ban on certain images where Hitler could be seen interacting with animals, especially in tender or affectionate situations, such as this photograph where he is petting a small dog. In the Nazi view, this could have softened his figure, making him seem more human and less formidable. This did not align with the idea of absolute authority and severity that it wanted to project to the public. Third Reich propaganda presented the Führer as the archetype of the Aryan and superior leader, a mix of intellect, strength, and determination. Showing him in episodes of tenderness with animals affected this idealization, making him seem more emotional or sentimental, characteristics that were not associated with the myth of his person. Here we can also see him feeding baby deer, a photograph that was strictly prohibited during the Nazi regime. Another aspect that supported the veto on this type of images had to do with war times, where it was important for Hitler to be perceived as a leader, always focused on the conflict and the well-being of Germany. If he was shown in moments of leisure or distraction with animals, it could give the impression that he was not completely focused on his responsibilities. Likewise, seeing the Führer in more personal or tender situations was capable of diminishing the mysticism that surrounded him and would have made him seem too accessible or common. The Nazis wanted to keep a distance between Hitler and the people to foster a sense of reverence and almost religious respect. Now, the reasons for the prohibition of a photograph do not lie only in a symbolic issue or a display of vulnerability. Other images were also banned from circulation simply because such an important figure as the German ruler looked somewhat ridiculous. In this case, he can be seen together with his personal pilot, Hans Bauer, ready to embark on a journey through the air. The cap he is wearing is part of the equipment used to face a flight, but the moment captured makes Hitler look almost like a jester. In this image, he can be seen together with several of his followers in a vehicle that is transporting them to a new journey by plane. This photograph was part of a strict selection of personal portraits that the Führer did not allow to be disseminated. By showing Hitler in unfavorable settings or ones that did not fit with the authoritarian and strong image he wanted to project, this striking postcard ended up being censored. Continuing along the same line where the fear of ridicule motivated the censorship, we find a series of images in which Hitler poses during a session with his personal photographer, Heinrich Hoffmann. The work dates from 1925, after the Führer was released from Landsberg prison, where he had been held for attempting to carry out a coup a year earlier. In each of the recordings, the Nazi leader can be seen lip-syncing to a speech of his own that had been recorded and played in the background. The aim of the session was to practice his gestures and expressions in order to later analyze them and find out which ones he would use in front of the public at future events. This shows the importance Hitler gave to both oratory and body language in order to capture the attention of his audience. However, on this occasion, what had been intended as a tool for improvement had a different effect on the Nazi leader. When he saw the photographs and realized how unflattering they were for his image, he ordered Hoffmann to destroy both the copies and the negatives. The Führer considered, in his own words, that they showed him below dignity. Finally, the photographer disobeyed the order and jealously guarded the material. However, that did not prevent many of the banned portraits from falling into enemy hands and becoming public after the war. The following image was taken between 1923 and 1924. At first, we can imagine that it is a beautiful portrait that shows seriousness and commitment to the Nazi cause, but it was interpreted in a different way by the dictator, with a peculiar mustache. The photograph shows Adolf Hitler with a striking military cap and an icy look, which the German leader himself interpreted as making him look foolish, and that is why he banned it. Beyond the outfit, what bothered the Führer was the expression, since it could be interpreted as a lack of emotional connection with the people of Germany, or as signs of coldness and detachment, something that could have been detrimental to his public image. Nazi propaganda focused on presenting Hitler as an almost mythical figure, superior and always controlled. The only emotion he was allowed to openly display was hatred of Germany's enemies, but any other could have an undesirable effect on a dedicated leader. This meant that there was a fine line to walk. Photos with cold expressions, or where he appeared in a relaxed or inactive posture, also did not contribute to the party's narrative, like this other case where he is seen sitting very seriously. Instead, they preferred portraits where the leader looked energetic, engaged, and focused. This helped reinforce the idea that he was a strong and determined leader. The man behind the Third Reich understood the importance of maintaining a consistent and well-defined public image. Allowing photographs that showed any kind of expression that could be interpreted as apathy, indifference, or weakness would have been contrary to the carefully crafted idea of the Führer. We come to another emotion that Adolf Hitler could not openly express: amusement. In the photograph, the Nazi leader can be seen enjoying a snowy day somewhere in Germany in 1936. The man had already assumed responsibility for governing the country's destiny and was planning the brutal expansion that would unleash World War II just 3 years later. However, in the midst of all that tension that inhabited his mind, he was photographed while trying to have a more relaxed and pleasant moment. The material that shows him riding a sleigh was censored for several reasons that we have been talking about. On the one hand, he is seen as an ordinary person who can enjoy leisure in his privacy. This goes against the image of a powerful leader. In addition, the portrait makes him seem little concerned with the buffoonish appearance, something remarkable in a person who suffered from a narcissistic complex. However, when he was able to observe closely how he looked, the ban came immediately. It was already clear that Hitler had strict control over his public image and how he wanted to be perceived both by the Germans and by the world. But how far did this obsession go? Perhaps one of the most striking cases concerns the banning of publications in which he was seen laughing. The Führer wanted to be seen as a strong, serious, and decisive leader. An image of him smiling or displaying more human emotions could have been perceived as a sign of weakness or lack of seriousness. In the context of his dictatorship and the cult of personality that he fostered, it was crucial to maintain the idea of an imposing and authoritarian figure. In that context, it was vital for Nazi propaganda to project Hitler as the savior of the people and the architect of the country's rebirth. A photo showing him laughing might not fit into the narrative of an omnipotent leader determined to fight for Germany's greatness. Maintaining a consistent public image was key for the regime. Portraits in which the Nazi leader was seen in more relaxed moments or laughing would have been seen as inconsistent with the projection of someone who is always in control, focused, and serious. Finally, some of the photographs of him smiling were not aesthetically flattering either, which also led to irrevocable censorship. Moving on, we find an example similar to that of the sled. In this case, the image shows Adolf Hitler sitting on a picnic blanket, ready to enjoy a snack. The recording is from 1933, a crucial moment for the Nazi leader, since on January 30th of that year, he was appointed Chancellor of Germany. The material is again classified as contradictory for showing a military and political leader of such magnitude in a situation that is too relaxed, domestic, or everyday. The idea was that the world would see him as a person who remained above worldly concerns. The images that showed him in informal activities, such as a picnic, could have reduced the perception of his authority and the seriousness with which he was seen by the public. However, Hitler himself encouraged this type of outdoor recreational activities in the German people. This constitutes another inconsistency in the Nazi hierarchy. For him, it was essential that his followers saw him as an almost mythical figure, above the daily activities of ordinary people, selfless and constantly sacrificing himself for the well-being of the country. Another of the most striking cases of the Führer's censorship has to do with the prohibition of photographs in which he was seen with Eva Braun. The peculiarity of this case is that the German leader tried to keep his love affair with the woman a secret, even from many Nazi leaders. In any case, over time, Hitler's inner circle became aware of the romantic relationship. The Nazi's young partner was a photographer, and there was no shortage of images of both of them in the Berghof residence, where they spent the most time together. Now, the Führer prohibited these records from coming to light for several reasons. First, because he had carefully cultivated an image of himself as a leader completely dedicated to the German people and the Nazi cause, without personal distractions or family life. The official narrative was that he was married to Germany and that his only love was the people of the country. This idea helped to build an almost mystical bond between Hitler and the nation, where his personal sacrifice was presented as absolute. Showing a relationship with Eva Braun could have affected that image, making him seem more human and less exclusively dedicated to his role as ruler. For propaganda purposes, it was also important for him to appear approachable and dedicated, but distant and above personal concerns. Having a visible romantic relationship could have complicated the public's perception of the Nazi Party's focus on mission. Also, by not being officially married to the woman, the relationship could have sparked criticism or scandal in a society that valued morality and conformity to traditional norms. In fact, Hitler and Braun only got married on April 29, 1945, one day before they took their own lives together, so as not to be caught by the Red Army in Berlin. A final reason for censorship is that during World War II, the image of a leader who could be distracted by personal matters would have been counterproductive to battle morale. The Nazi regime needed to project Hitler as a commander, always focused on victory and the interests of the German people, not as someone who could be enjoying a private life while the soldiers fought at the front. Because of this set of morivos, Eva Braun was kept in the background and out of the public eye to protect and reinforce the image of the Führer. Now finally, we have to learn about a strange session that, in this case, did manage to come to light thanks to the magazine Deutschland Erwache. It was one of the propaganda media of Nazism, which sought to contribute to the positive image of the German leader. The photographs were taken in 1930, and contrary to the idea that the party itself sought to construct, the publication showed Hitler in different scenarios with comments such as, "Young people adore him. Children try to approach him everywhere to be able to give him flowers." In this particular session, he could be seen in period attire, wearing long knee-high stockings and leather shorts. This last garment was from Austria or Italy and was very popular at the time. However, the result of the production was not to the Führer's liking. His photographs with his hands on his waist, posing next to a chair or with a hut in the background, were considered completely unworthy of a figure like him. Thus, the magazine Deutschland der Wache, far from doing him a favor, only caused the displeasure of this historical figure, who strictly prohibited its distribution. Because it was a publication aligned with Nazism, the decision of the German leader was respected. However, in 1945, and with Hitler already dead, an Allied soldier named Alf Robinson found one of those magazines forced into oblivion in a bombed house in Germany, and added it to his collection of Nazi relics. After a long time, the photographs went from being stored in a home to the hands of everyone, revealing other facets of the now deceased Nazi leader. And that's how we come to the end of our video. Thank you for joining us on a tour of the collection of banned photos of Adolf Hitler. We look forward to seeing you in the next installment of Military History.